We'll move straight into item 1, to receive apologies and absence and acceptance. I don't think we have any, do we? No apologies, thank you. Item 2, to receive any declarations of interest.
Mr. Chairman, I declare any private and confidential matters that relate to me.
Okay. Thank you. I'll also declare an interest on the same item, non-pecuniary, although I don't think actually I am covered by it. We can discuss that later. Item 3, to sign the minutes of the meeting held on the 15th of September. Appendix.
Mr. Chair, if I might raise a point of order, please. I do wonder if Councillor Maureen Stockwood should also be declaring an interest in item 28 as being a member of the same household.
I'm sorry, that's not a relevant consideration. I am an independent councillor, which has been challenged before your time, Councillor Wallace, and did not pass.
I would suggest that you have a familial relationship with Councillor Stockwood.
It is irrelevant. It is irrelevant.
I live nine houses down. Am I supposed to be here?
I don't think that's the same point, Councillor.
Mr. Chairman, it's for individual councillors to declare their interest, not for other councillors to comment upon other councillors' interests. Councillors have declared. We now move on to the next item of the agenda.
Okay, I wonder if that needs a further point of order, please, Mr. Chair.
Okay.
I would like to bring item 28, the correspondence from the health from our HR advisors, to item 12, to extend that item to further than just note the decision. I think it's the sort of decision it should be open to the public. I can see no reason, and I can't understand why that's been placed in private and confidential. It relates to the behaviour of a councillor and to some security issues that arise from the exchange of emails referred to within that piece of correspondence.
Can I just stop you there? You have seen the opinion of a legal expert who has given us their advice as to how it is managed on the agenda. So I don't think it's the case for you to, unless you are proposing and you have a seconder.
Oh, well, I am going to propose, and I hope that I will have a seconder for the point. Whilst I appreciate the advice that we've received from NALC, I'm not bound by it, and I do feel it's a matter that's open to debate with the general public. I cannot understand what the fundament of under what principle of placing the private and confidential applies in this case. It relates to an abusive email and a breach of security.
And I'm happy to second that.
Why would that be private and confidential?
Well, Mr. Chairman, it was the clerk who set the agenda, so you're going against the official advice and the advice of your own clerk. So can we just move to the vote then? If it's been moved and seconded and there's no further speakers, we'll just move to the vote.
Could I get some clarification? Are the two conflicted members of this council going to be voting?
Yes, because it's a procedure of the council, not on the actual substantive matter.
I would have thought it was part of the substantive matter, Mr.
Chairman. It's not a to and fro. If Councillor Wallace is just toing and froing with other councillors, then it's an out of control meeting.
Can I ask both councillors to be quiet for a second? We will be going straight to the vote. If you don't vote, then I will take it as an abstention. So those in favour of Councillor Wallace's proposal and seconded by Councillor Bird, please vote now.
Is a show of hands sufficient?
Yeah, fine. Yeah.
I think you
Are you showing your hand, Councillor Bird?
I am, yes.
Oh, okay. That's 2. Those against the motion?
Against.
That motion is lost. Okay. Can we now proceed to agree that I sign the minutes of the 15th of September?
I move, Mr. Chairman.
Seconded.
Moved and seconded. All those against? Okay, I take that as a unanimous agreement for item 3. Thank you. Item 4, to receive an update on outstanding decisions and consider further actions.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we note that the list is provided with a non-exhaustive at the top. We note that the following items are not included: knee-high fence around Wychwood Road, security review of other sites owned by the council like Windhill and Butfield, litter bin review on Windhill and Butfield, and a resolution to open Orchard Park. I note there is no reference to actual council decisions for each action, and continue to move that we agree the council decisions regarding each item be provided within 7 days, and note that the council's decision for a temporary role is to support the completion of tasks which will help address the existing list of actions. I move that, and it's seconded by Councillor Mrs. Stockwood.
Councillor Stockwood, thank you very much for that very rapid fire statement of all the items that you wish to add. Are you able to assist the deputy clerk in tomorrow with the minutes? Because I think you would have to be able to do 160 words a minute to keep up with you.
Yep.
Is that possible? Thank you. Okay. Any other comments or questions?
No.
Okay. All those against the proposal that we note the items that Councillor Stockwood has mentioned. Okay, no one voting against. I'm assuming that that is unanimously agreed. Councillor Leach, are you indicating you want to speak?
Can I just I know I can't take part in voting tonight because I'm not on P&R, but some members of the public have asked me to let you know they've got some worries about things. Is it okay for me to bring it up at the end of this meeting before everybody goes, or should I do it now? These are from our members of the public.
Mr. Chairman,
if it's not related to the
information
agenda item, then it's not relevant at that particular juncture. Sorry.
That's all right. It's just that they're concerned about certain things, that's all.
Okay.
That are going on in the village.
Rightio.
So could I have 2 minutes at the end? Just before you all go to confidential.
Well, we'll see how we are for time.
Okay, I understand
so
that.
I take it all those in favour, no one against. I'm assuming that item 4 is noted with the additional comments.
Agree.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Item 5, to verify accounts paid report to the 31st of October 2020, Appendix B. I move those.
seconded.
Okay, are there any comments or questions on that report? I don't think I've seen any hands. No. Thank you. Anyone against? I can't see anybody against, so I'm assuming that that is
Gareth
unanimous.
Son,
Thank you.
Maureen, Wayne. There's a lot of people on there. Funny that. Viv. You know, oh, it's because it's budget, isn't it?
There's a voice I recognise who's left their mic on.
It's not me.
Okay. I know who it is. Item 6, to verify the bank reconciliations, A to the 30th of September, Appendix C. I move those.
Seconded.
Seconded. Any comments or questions on Appendix C?
No.
No. No. Okay. Anyone against that? No. I take that then as unanimously carried. Accepted. Verified. 6B to the 31st of October, Appendix D. I move those.
Seconded.
Thank you. Comments or questions?
No.
No. Thank you. Anyone against?
No.
No. That's carried unanimously. Thank you. Item 7, to receive the budget to the actuals to the 31st of October. So the budgeted expenditure to the actual expenditure, whatever. Appendix E. Any comments or questions? I'll move those, by the way.
Seconded.
Comments or questions?
No, nothing.
No, thank you. Anyone against? No, that's carried unanimously. Thank you. Item 8, to consider the year-end forecast to the 31st of March 2021, Appendix F. I'm sorry, let me get my papers straight. I move those.
Seconded.
Any comments or questions?
No comments to make on it.
No. Okay. Anyone against acceptance? No. I
No.
take that as unanimously agreed. Thank you. Item 9, to consider the first draft of the budget for the year ending the 31st of March 2022. So that's a budget for the next financial year, Appendix G. So this is an initial draft of the budget that we would normally have a final decision probably in February each year.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we note the initial draft, but there are no comments to explain changes and committees have not considered it. And I further move that we agree explanatory comments to be added to each item and to go to all committees before the decision in council in February. Seconded by Councillor Mrs. Stockwood.
Okay. Okay, any comments or questions?
It's not comments or questions.
Yeah, may I?
Yes.
Councillor Bird.
Yeah,
Oh, sorry, Councillor Bird. Just before you come in there, I've just spotted the town clerk has her hand up.
Thank you, Councillor Purdew-Huran. Yes, as you rightly said, this is the first draft of the budget for the next financial year. It's been put together. Unfortunately, the chair and vice chair of Policy and Resources were unable to meet in advance of this to discuss the budget. Just to give you some high-level input, in terms of the income put forward, we have been conservative with that, as in conservative with small c, because we don't know how quickly revenue and income back to the old courthouse will happen in terms of the vaccine and groups coming back to meet. The other big unknown is the tax base. I think traditionally we're used to the tax base increasing year on year, but there may be a case of the tax base does not increase because of obviously the massive adjustments that have hit us as a result of COVID. And one of the major things to flag in terms of costs is I've reflected the shortfall of staff, as you will have observed in the salaries and on costs, to reflect additional resource in the office, so we can deliver some of the projects that council are keen to see delivered. Added an additional groundsman to take that to 3 full-time members of staff, so we can get some of the open spaces into a maintenance programme, and also reflected under the caretaking provision in there for Orchard Park, if we proceed with the fencing and gates. But we haven't had an opportunity to kind of progress any other things in regard to recreation and amenities. And as you rightly say, have not gone to the various committees as yet. So that is just a first budget draft for council to consider through its various committees, and then by full council in February.
Just to clarify, I think we did arrange to meet at an agreed time, but I think it was cancelled due to other events, I think.
Oh, the meeting certainly moved around with various requirements that we had to juggle.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. Councillor Bird, I think you wanted to raise
a couple of things. I've got in front of me what I think is the budget summary, which says at the top, final budget agreed at full council 21/1/20. I'm just a little bit concerned about some of the headings that I don't quite understand. Firstly, down at the bottom, there's a column that's changes from 2020 to 2021, when the reality is what I wanted to know was the changes from 21 to 22. So I'm wondering whether there should be another column put in on the right, which gives details of the increases for this year. Because if you look at the last column, it looks that there's an increase of 14,000, which is last year's increase. This year's increase is 52,000 for the expenditure. And I'm wondering whether that would be helpful. The other thing which I think would be helpful would be to have the sheets numbered, so that there's a clear identifier of each of the sheets when we want to talk about them. Because in talking about the sheet I'm talking about now, there are lots of sheets, and it would be nice perhaps to have numbering or lettering or something that makes it clear which sheet is which.
Yes, we can action that. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Councillor Wallace.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Councillor Bird has actually stolen my thunder to some extent. Council will be aware that there are some residents who have expressed an interest in the setting of the draft budget for next year, some of which I've been responding to on Facebook over the past few days, and one particular resident has suggested that she would be watching carefully what happened this evening in terms of the discussion around the budget, and I want to assure that resident and any resident who might be considering the meeting this evening, and we have some people present, that we do, as a Policy and Resource Committee, truly consider the figures that are placed before us. And whilst I was reconciling the figures this evening, at the same point that Councillor Bird has raised came to my attention as well. There's clearly discrepancy in the figures on the final page there. And fair play, Councillor Bird, I hadn't recognised that it was the difference between 2020 and 21 until you mentioned it there, although I did see the discrepancy. It's £52,204 and £9,000. The point I do wish to make, and I'm more than happy to wait until later in the year to set the budget, but I do want to just make sure that residents who are paying attention absolutely, and I commend residents for doing that, to be honest with you, absolutely understand the process that we undergo here. As a Policy and Resource Committee, we are obliged to consider the financial income and expenditure of the council and what that relates to in terms of setting the precept for our residents, and we take it extremely seriously, I think, all of us, irrespective of which part of the political divide we might sit upon. What I would mention this evening, just when we do consider this, is that it's a bit misleading to focus on one figure of 20% at the very foot of the table, I think we do have to consider that our non-precept income dropped by a third, or is predicted to drop as a third next year as compared to this year. There are a number of areas where expenditure has increased significantly, not least on recreational equipment, and I think everybody would thank the recreation team for the work we've done in upgrading the parks for the residents in the town over the course of the last year or so. Councillor Moskva, I think in particular, is to be commended for that, but all of that comes at a cost. If we really want to deliver for the people of Bingham, then we have to consider both sides of the equation, both the income and the expenditure that flows from that, and the benefit that we receive from it. The other point that the residents seem to concentrate on was the increased staff costs. And I think it's accepted by everyone on this call and all councillors that following both the staff review carried out by Ellis Whittam and the subsequent review of staffing and now aborted redundancy procedure, that we all accept that additional resources required to allow us to deliver successfully for the people of Bingham in future years. And I have no embarrassment whatsoever in making that point before this meeting this evening, or any other resident of Bingham who may want to consider that. 20% does look like a horrendous figure. I absolutely accept that. On isolation, it looks like a terrifying figure. I absolutely accept that. But it does equate to £1.41 per month for the Band E property, or 33p per week for additional services. And I, for one, don't think that's an enormous increase over the cost of earlier years. And I'd just like us to bear that in mind when we come to finalise the budget in February. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Yes, I think I know the correspondence that you refer to. I myself have also been in correspondence with the resident, and I do take the point that there was no context with it. The other councils are considering their budgets at the moment. Last night, councillors attended a briefing at the Rushcliffe Borough Council members' budget briefing, and the key issues were discussed and presented to us to put everything into context before we actually come to the budget meeting in February. So the process is ongoing, and perhaps I say this just off the cuff, I've not given it much thought, that it is one thing to say that it's very open and transparent to discuss how we arrive at our eventual budget in February for next April, but perhaps we need to think about how we initially set off the process, whether we just simply issue an agenda item with an appendix without any text or justifications to consider, or do we sort of look at it as councillors initially before we bring it to public meetings? So that's something for us to consider for next year. We won't go into much detail now. Okay, so can I suggest then, councillors, that that we note the first draft? I don't think there's a need for us to take any votes at this stage, and we consider it for the next stage when we'll discuss it again.
Mr. Chairman, I moved that we note the initial draft, but there are no comments to explain changes and committees have not considered it. And then I further moved, as part of my moving, that we agree explanatory comments be added to each item and to go to all committees before decision in council in February. That was moved and seconded. So can I have a vote on that then, please?
Sorry, Town Clerk.
Sorry, it was just to add that comments were put in last year and weren't considered. So part of putting comments in was in regard to the meeting that didn't happen, where some notes were going to put in. But as I say, that meeting didn't take place. So the first draft was put out. But yes, I take your point.
Okay. Anyone against the proposal? No. All agreed. That's unanimous. Thank you.
Thank you.
Item 10, to review the 3-year reserve plan for the year ending the 31st of March 2024, Appendix H.
Mr. Chairman, I note the update on the current reserve plan, and the new reserve plan will be agreed by decision of Council in February. I move that, seconded by Councillor Mrs. Stockwood.
Do you second that, Councillor Mrs. Stockwood?
Seconded.
Okay. Any comments or questions?
No, not for me.
I think so. No. Okay. Anyone against that proposal? No. So I take it's unanimous. All agreed. Thank you very much. Item 11, to note the additional costs incurred for the installation and removal of the small Christmas trees in the town centre, as referred from Community and Environment. Well, that's just for noting, really.
Move that we note it.
Any comments or questions? If not, we'll move on. Thank you. We'll move on. 12, to note the decision by the Council's HR and Health and Safety consultants not to retender for a new 3-year term and to discuss next steps. I move that we agree to get 3 quotes for a new provider to be considered by the next P&R.
Seconded.
Moved and seconded. Town Clerk.
You're on mute, Sean.
Thank you. Thank you very much. It's just to let council know that I've started to identify some companies to obtain quotes from them. So it's just to let them know that. And thank you for the mute reminder.
Thank you. Unfortunately, I'm not taking any questions from the public. In 2 weeks' time, there will be an opportunity at full council. Okay, so we note that. Any comment?
I am requesting, Norman Mees, I am requesting to speak in accordance with your rules and the suspension of standing orders about, I want to ask a question about item 12, please.
I'm sorry, Mr. Mees, we're not discussing that item.
Are you going to put that to the vote, or is that your decision to not allow a resident of Bingham to speak to you and ask a question? Is that your decision, or are you going to put it to the vote?
Councillor Wallace, did I see your hand go up? Yeah. I can't hear what you're saying.
I've fallen into the trap of the mute button. My apologies, Mr. Chair. I propose that we suspend standing orders to allow Mr. Mees to make his comment. If I could get a seconder for that.
You have a seconder.
Okay, I'm assuming that you are both voting in favour of that proposal.
I am, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Okay, those against that we suspend standing orders?
Against.
It's 4 against and 2 in favour. That proposal is lost.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay. So we just note number 12.
I moved that you were moved actually to agree to get 3 quotes for a new provider, which we've had. Are we voting in favour of that?
I think just to be absolutely clear, to make sure that we've got it recorded. Can I just clarify what you said earlier, Clark?
It's just to say that we're starting identifying companies and we will be bringing quotations back. I don't believe there's any need to vote on that at this stage.
Thank you.
Thanks. You make your decision at council later on. Thank you.
Okay, item 13, to note an additional direct debit for fuel cards.
Move that we note it.
We note it. Thank you very much. There's obviously sensible reasons for that, as we all know. Item 14, to review the allotment rents for the year ending the 31st of December 2021.
Move that we recommend no change.
You have a seconder?
Yeah, I'll second that.
Yeah. Okay, moved and seconded that there's no change. Anyone against? No. I take that is unanimously agreed. Thank you. Item 15, to consider the terms and conditions of Nest's pension scheme, Appendix I, and indeed the terms and conditions related to employers. So it was interesting reading over the weekend for me.
Move that we accept the terms and conditions.
Seconded by Councillor Shelton. Any comments or questions on that? I don't think there was anything in there actually that I found difficult to accept. Councillor Wallace.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. As councillors may remember, I wasn't keen on us moving to the Nest pension provision. However, like you, Councillor Purdoharan, I have a rather dull weekend and did read through the terms and conditions, and I don't think there was anything in there that was leaping out or giving me any cause for concern. And given that I think it is a government-backed scheme, I would be surprised if there were any matters that I would be particularly worried about. So I'm happy to second that we accept. If we are, well, I don't know if we can accept it or not. We've considered it. Do we accept it here, or do we take it to full council? Presumably we go to full council on it.
Yeah, we
okay.
We accept those terms. Our recommendation is that we accept those terms and conditions. Just for the record, we are taking on the Nest pension scheme for new starters. Existing members of staff will remain in the local government scheme. So in that sense, there's no change for existing staff.
Thank you for the clarification, Mr. Chair.
Okay, thank you for that. Item 16, to consider whether to extend provision of free of charge read-only access of the finance software to all members of Policy and Resources, should they make a request.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we agree all councillors of the council to receive the offer.
Thank you. I'm happy to second that.
Can I just ask what the software is?
It's Scribe, isn't it?
Website.
It's the Scribe software that we use for our finance.
All right, thank you.
Yeah.
There is an access code if you wish to be able to view it, which is encouraged by auditors. There is an access code that you'll receive, and then you can look at it as if you went into the office. So it makes sense.
Yes, if I could request that, please.
That's fine.
And me.
Well, this is.
I will request by email. Yes.
I had assumed we would all get it automatically.
Councillor Leach, you're not part of Policy and Resources, so we're limiting it to Policy and Resources.
Mr. Chairman,
I thought
just
you
move.
I thought somebody said all members, all councillors.
All members of Policy.
I thought that meant every council member.
Mr. Chairman, I moved that all councillors of the council to receive.
You wish to extend it to everybody?
I moved all councillors of the council to receive the offer to extend the provision of free, to have the opportunity to have free of charge read-only access. Presumably it's free of charge. It's not an extra cost to have anybody who is interested in receiving such of a functionality to have access to it. So I have moved all councillors of the council.
Is that
And my
that
apologies.
workable?
Sorry, my apologies. I had a blank out in terms of the screen froze, so I didn't hear Councillor Stockwood's extension to all councillors.
Is that doable?
We'd have to check what the limit is, but certainly if Councillor Leach wants that as well. I mean, at the moment it stands at 2 people requesting.
As Mr. Chair, if I might, I think I'm happy to support Councillor Stockwood's suggestion. I see no reason why it shouldn't be open to all councillors. The only restriction I could think of would be there may be a restriction over the number of licences we're allowed to have. Subject to that, I don't think there's a problem.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll check that out and have it confirmed at full council. Yeah, okay, because it's not an issue we should fall out over.
No.
Okay. Item 17, to note and receive an update on the van hire expenditure incurred.
I was bringing this to council as an additional piece of expenditure with having to take on a second vehicle, which I had spoken with Councillor Purdue Haran about. But since that we agreed to take the van, it was only used for 2 days and returned as it was no longer needed. We only needed 1 vehicle as we only had 1 member of staff in, and it was to let you know that the hirer has waived the charge for the 2 days, so we have not incurred any charge in regard to that.
Okay, unless there's any questions or comments, we'll note that. Thank you. 18, to consider setting a budget for a second vehicle.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we agree to support the existing decision for more information on grounds maintenance vehicles to be paid for from the Recreation Equipment Reserve, which relates to hire purchase of mowers and vehicles and income from disposals, as stated in previous minutes. Seconded by Councillor Shelton.
Town Clerk?
I'm afraid this was a request for a short term fix, because we only have 1 vehicle for 2 members of staff and they don't share a bubble, so there is a second mode of transport needed. We took on a van hire. We don't need that van hire at the moment, but at some point we will need a second vehicle whilst we have the COVID restrictions. So it was, if you could set a budget, there's no pressing need at precisely this moment to do that, but at least it will give us something to work from when we have our 2 members of staff back.
Well, can I suggest that we carry this forward to full council and we can get some information within the next 2 weeks for us to come to a decision?
Yeah, things may change. Yeah.
Okay. Happy with that? I take that as a yes. Okay. 19, to increase the limit from £500 to £1,000 for the proper officer to authorise emergency expenditure of the financial regulations, paragraph 4.5.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we recommend to increase the limit subject to consultation and written agreement from the relevant committee chair and vice chair.
Second that, Mr. Chairman.
That's moved and seconded. So that is approved with consultation with the relevant committee chair and vice chair. Any comments or questions? No. Okay. Anyone against that proposal?
No.
No. I take that as unanimously agreed. Thank you. Item 20, to agree the frequency and meeting dates for the car park and policy subcommittees.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we agree that subcommittees meet as and when required as decided by council in their terms of reference.
I'll second that, Mr. Chairman.
That's moved and seconded that we meet as and when required. Do you have any comments or questions? Okay, anyone against that
Oh,
proposal?
my apologies. I was a bit slow in putting my
Sorry.
hand up there.
Sorry.
I think I'll just hold my hand up. You can probably see it a bit more easily. A plea, I think, on my part. I don't know what you mean by it. I've got a watch talking to me right there. My watch has decided to start talking to me now, so a plea, I think, on my part. I don't expect council to work around Councillor Tony Wallace, but I do have a day job, so it would be helpful, particularly on the policy subcommittee, if there is a good notification of when those meetings are likely to take place, so I can make arrangements with my employer.
Noted. And yeah, and I think we can try and work with each other to fit meetings in and remain flexible. I take your point. Okay. Anyone against? No. I take that then as agreed unanimously, with, of course, a reasonable request from Councillor Wallace. That's fair enough. Okay. 21, to receive the staff training matrix, which I think we just need to note. If I'm right, Sharon?
Yes, please.
Yes. Okay. Thank you very much. So that's noted. And also, similarly, item 22, to receive the councillor training matrix, which again we also note. Thank you. Item 23, to consider supporting the proper officers' third year of their community governance degree as part of the statutory status as an advanced qualified clerk, Appendix J.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we agree the same decision as in previous 2 years to not support the training request.
Seconded.
My hand up, if I may speak.
Councillor Bird.
Yeah, one of the things that we talked about a few meetings ago was that we were aiming for an award for councils, obviously starting at the bottom and working our way up to show what a wonderful council we are. I just wonder if, when it comes to deciding whether we fit the description or not, whether refusal of training or support of training of our proper officer would be appropriate. And in that view, I think it is very important that this should be allowed. Thank you.
Is that a proposal?
No, because I've moved a motion.
You've moved.
Yeah, I was going to say John's already proposed.
Sorry, yes. Councillor Wallace.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I do support Councillor Bird's comments. I think we should, in much the same way as I was talking in terms of the budget, I believe we should be an aspirational council. We should be looking to improve the lot of our residents within Bingham, and we should, as far as we can, become more professional in how we run and govern Bingham Town Council. And I can see nothing in that that's inconsistent with giving most senior members of staff, and indeed all our staff, the training to allow them to perform their functions as effectively as they possibly can. And I think Councillor Bird's point is a good one about when we come to put award, when we put what is it we call it, a self-nomination. Would it be a self-nomination? I don't know. When we come up for this award, I think it would be a good thing for us to show that we adequately train and think of the people that we employ. And apologies for the appalling grammar and lack of articulation there.
Okay, any other comments or questions? Councillor Mrs. Stockwood.
Yes, I've commented each year on this same point. This qualification is not required for a council at this level. The clerk has got SILCA, and that's all that's required, especially for the award that we are seeking. So I should be against this proposal.
Councillor Leach. Councillor Leach.
Just a quick one, because I don't vote, but I can have my say. And don't hold your breath. If we don't show willing, we don't stand a cat in hell's. I'm sorry, but I think for them to see us actually doing the job properly and encouraging our staff. This is the 21st century, not the 18th century. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, it's been moved and seconded that we do not support this particular request, which is unusual in itself that it's put on a public agenda. It's the first training item I've seen on a public agenda. All those against the...
Yes, I'm definitely against it.
Yes, I'm against the proposal.
Okay. All those in favour of the proposal not to agree? 4-2. Okay. That request is lost. Okay, 24, to note the proper officers and deputy clerks' virtual attendance at the SLCC Practitioners Conference on the 23rd to the 25th of February 2021.
No.
So just note that. Thank you.
Noted.
Any comments or questions? I don't suppose there are any. No. Okay. Item 25, to note the Christmas office closure dates from Wednesday the 23rd of December through to Friday the 1st of January inclusive. So that means that the office would go back to work on, I presume, Monday the 4th of January. Closing on the 23rd. That doesn't mean to say, though, that the office is open to everybody, because, of course, government regulations and all of that.
No.
Is that correct, Sharon?
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, noted. Item 26, to receive the updated calendar of meetings to the end of May 2021, Appendix K. I hope that was reasonably acceptable. Essentially, we've just added dates from, I think, March, April and May.
Move that we recommend to council the updated calendar.
Seconded, moved and seconded. Okay. Any objections to that?
No.
No. Okay. All agreed. Thank you. Gosh, we're getting like, oh, no, I won't say it. 27, to consider any correspondence received. We have one item of correspondence. A, the Nottinghamshire County Council's local government pension scheme reform of exit pay arrangements, Appendix L. And I think this is from central government legislation to limit pay awards, I believe.
Well, we note it, Mr. Chair.
For clarification, Mr. Chair, as a government employee, also subject to the same £95,000 cap. So it's actually to incorporate redundancy payments and payments for the provision of a pension, which the government has decided to cap for all public sector employees to £95,000. I think it's probably I would be surprised to see any of the employees of Bingham Town Council who would breach that cap. Nevertheless, I think it's important. Thank you. And for the record, I probably would.
Okay. Right. So we note that. I don't think there's any particular comment we need to add, whether it's consultation or not. Okay, that does all of the public. Can I just clarify, Councillor Leach, what it was you wanted to raise?
Right, it's as I said, it doesn't come under P&R, but it's people in the street that stop me when I'm going for my coffee from Greg's. One of the things which they were very pleased with was the way we dealt with the new management at the new home, the parking, which was extremely dangerous.
Yeah.
That was seen to straight away, and I was asked to let everybody know, thank you very much. It's where they're double parking their cars and lorries, and it's not safe, and it's actually highly dangerous where they're parking. People are having to walk on the road to get round, and that was dealt with straight away. So a thank you from the public. Number 2, was it? A lady had apparently gone out, and when she came back, someone had fly tipped on her drive. Very naughty. And another one is about dog mess on people's gardens as well. People are just letting their dogs mess and not picking it up and leaving it there. That is completely wrong. And the final one is twofold on the lake. How many more bins are going in, and where someone brought up was where was the bird hides that they were promised, and that's it.
Okay. Well, the only thing I can tell you is the country park is still a live construction site in a sense. So the hides may be coming later. I don't think it's completely finished over there. My understanding is that Streetwise have installed the bins. I don't know how many bins have gone in. Whether they've finished that, I will have to check on that one.
Yeah, apparently someone said there's only one bin up there.
Okay.
And that they also would appreciate if we could have any seating up there for when they're walking round, like bench and picnic bench and whatnot.
Okay.
Finally, the regarding the dog mess, Newark Council debated this many years ago, and the chairman said we must take greater steps to avoid this nuisance.
Thank you, Rowan.
Oh,
thank you. Okay, on that note, I move that to resolve that in view of the confidential nature of the business about to be transacted, the press and the public be excluded for the remainder of the meeting.
That includes me, so I'm off. I'm going to have my tea.
You can.
As I'm a guest tonight.
Seconded.
Seconded. Anyone against?
So could I just clarify for Councillor Leach's benefit? You are entitled to join the confidential part of the meeting, Councillor Leach. You're just not entitled to vote.
No, my stomach feels like my throat slit. I haven't had any tea yet.
Okay, thank you.
So, thank you. Okay. Bye-bye, everybody. Behave yourselves.
All in favour of that?
Behave, buy a pram. On that comment, bye-bye.
All in favour?
4.
Okay, I think that's carried. So we will log off this channel and log on again.
Thank you.
Another invitation.